We now return to Let's Play Assassin's Creed China. This will be the final mission. If you notice over there, Shao Jun is wearing a different costume. You unlock, or can unlock, Ezio's costume as well as Wang Yang Min's sword, with Uplay points as you go along here. So, let's begin. I've got 8 minutes.
This is Dian Zangyong. There is nowhere to run to.
It's another running mission. Kind of weak for a final mission, in my opinion, but here we go. The controller is shaking like crazy, by the way. Get up. Oh my god. Okay. Barely got that one. So this one doesn't seem to be running necessarily for... well, I mean, obviously it's for time, but we're not running... oh, okay, never mind. Well, there's the fire right there. I was about to say, looks like this is sort of a... no fucking... B button does not jump you up a ladder. And there goes all the suspense. It's kind of seemed like it was trigger point oriented there for a while, where you get to a certain part of the level and then the next part triggers. Which I'm kind of okay with, because the run from fire mission and timed mission and all that stuff, kind of not that interesting. Cannon just pointed at the wall there. Up. I'd like to know where the Mongolians got their cannons from. Okay, so we're halfway there. Okay. Pointlessly dramatic slow down there. There's a pointless animus shard. Let go. See, the flames in this situation kind of are trigger pointed. Get down. You get to live for a little bit. Okay.
A little distraction could help me here.
我们得保持戒备才行。
最好快逃吧！ 怎么搞的？
This way? There we go. Let's see. A little bit gimmicky, but it looks like it's meant to clear out some of the level there. What is with this pointless slowdown? It's a little late to introduce this cinematic drama and tension to the game, I feel. That actually significantly reduced the number of enemies on the board there. I think I see a chest over there. I do not. It's just a red box. That is not helpful. I don't know that it would have been terribly difficult to get past these guys without doing this. I could have just climbed that ladder and gone over them.
Here I come, Zangyong.
It's just a little bit of a, well, once again, a gimmick. Probably the worst thing this
怎么回事？
game does is do pointless things like that for each, well, not necessarily for each level, but to make levels more interesting, quote unquote.
How does it feel, assassin? Is it as you'd hoped?
Do not flatter yourself, Zangyong. You had to die for China to have hope again. I started this journey for vengeance, but I've understood now that it's pointless. I have found a better goal to pursue.
And what is that?
The future. A new tomorrow for China and its people. I will undo all that you have done. I will rebuild the Brotherhood and recruit those who wish to make our land a place of freedom. Those ready to die to fight men like you. Your Templar world will not happen. The assassins will rise again.
Ooh, that surprises even me, actually. I don't know what good that is. Helix kill. When the helix bar is full, block an attack and press the triggers to engage a kill mode. Cool. New Game Plus. Replay the game, but with all the abilities and upgrades you obtain during normal mode available from the beginning. Level scored is also multiplied by 2. You can easily obtain the upgrade you missed and acquire the new exclusive ones. Plus hard. You only have a single health bar and enemies react much faster. Oh, good. Interesting. So that was Assassin's Creed Chronicles China. This is the first game in, so far, 3 games in the Chronicles series. Definitely have no interest in playing any more. This attempted to take the Assassin's... Holy shit, that is very loud in my ears. I don't know if it's super loud for you guys, but we're gonna get away from that for a moment.
Mentor, the Emperor is dead.
The elixir of life?
Yes. It killed him, as you had planned.
His son will follow in his footsteps. The wall will protect the people now, and so shall we.
Mentor, last time we talked, you were telling me about Master Auditore's precursor box.
Ah, Ezio's great gift to me. Yes, I never discovered what the box could do. Yet the artifact, and my obsession with it, taught me a great lesson. Perhaps the greatest of lessons.
What was that, Mentor?
She who seeks revenge should remember to dig 2 graves.
Okay. So yeah, it attempts to take the Assassin's Creed formula and turn it into a 2D side-scrolling game. I do not believe it fully succeeded. Obviously, after playing this game, we have determined quite well that there will no longer be stealth games played on this channel, but I do want to say that this game, I feel, despite the frustrations, had the capacity for being more enjoyable than Mark of the Ninja. And the reason I say that is because even though I think they failed to implement what they were going for, the pieces are all here. They're just scattered above or about 12 levels. There were 2 moments when I actually was enjoying the game. One was the first running mission, which was also not a good mission. But what I mean by that is it's bad design in the game to have that mission by itself. It acted as sort of a release after the previous mission, which was a frustrating level of puzzling your way through the crossing view cones or sight cones and all that stuff. It was a very frustrating mission, and then the next mission was just run and kill. Which, as I said, was sort of a release, a pressure release there, as far as the flow of the game goes. But those 2 missions could have just had those same gimmicks combined. And in fact, all of those missions could have been very, very similar. The second mission, the one that I actually enjoyed, was unfortunately the one where I had no commentary on it. And the reason I liked that one is because it did sort of incorporate more than one theme to that level. It had just basically you could run and kill if you wanted to. It had the multiple levels of, you can go this way or you can go this way to get to a place, which I think that was not a very complex level as far as design goes. Like that one level when we first got to the city and there was like 3 different levels. It was the one where we were trying to find the the Portuguese Templars or whatever the guys were. It was a big level and you could go backwards and forwards. That is where the 2.5D planar aspect was done right, in that it could have created multiple venues or multiple avenues for you to be able to move through the level as though it were a 3D level, but on a 2D plane. And then that last level, I feel failed at the running thing, but what was interesting was actually the gimmicks, in particular the cannons there at the end to make getting through that final area easier. Why did we not see that throughout the rest of the game? There was a few moments where the actual level itself came into play, like that time I untethered a boat and just for a few seconds you could jump onto that boat to get over to a secret area and then it was gone. That's clever. They should have done more of that in the game. My biggest problem with the design, the level design of the game, is that they had 12 levels and they were introducing mechanics up until 2/3 of the way through, which they could have easily done most of this within 2 levels. I mean, and it just, each level seemed to have its own theme, its own gimmick, which, again, completely unnecessary to separate those. I feel the levels would have been stronger if they'd incorporated all of those things together, because the problem with the flow of the game is that there is way too much waiting. And yes, I realize it's a stealth game, but Assassin's Creed, the franchise, is not necessarily all about waiting. There are moments of waiting, but the game itself is really more about exploration and running a lot. Whereas in this game, if you fuck up, especially in the beginnings of the levels, before you get the ability to like do all your other crazy kills, you're basically borked. Like, you may as well just stand there and let them kill you and start over, because despite the fact that this combat is better and more enjoyable than, say, Mark of the Ninja, there are moments where you just can't overcome it. And the whole thing about the Assassin's Creed is that, especially in like the actual 3D games, the original games, if you got into combat or decided I can't actually win this combat or whatever, then you could take off running down an alley, climb a building, jump into a flower box, and you can hide out for a moment. And that was kind of missing from this game. If you screwed up, then you just screwed up, and you gotta start the level over, and that's not enjoyable. It killed the flow of the game as it was anyway, waiting for 3 guys to time themselves correctly so that they were all looking in a direction so you could sneak by them. And honestly, the reward for doing that was not at all there. I mean, the game is beatable, frustratingly so, admittedly. It's harder to do it the way I did it, but it's beatable without all those other sub-weapons and gimmicks and all that stuff. You don't need that, which means that didn't need to be in the game. You could have done more with game mechanics and level design and just left it simple. You know, left a stun bomb, smoke grenade thing, and an actual knife that could kill people from a distance, and then make things more interesting, like the ability to run off to a different plane coming forward and go shoot some cannons, and that blows up some bad guys, or it opens up a new pathway, or it creates a distraction that you can then utilize to... I mean, it could have just been more interesting than it was, and less frustrating, puzzly nonsense in some of the levels. Again, I had mentioned this several episodes ago, but the level designs for each of these, it feels like they were done by 2 or 3 different people, and you could tell the one that was done by the guy who wanted you to basically do the level on rails, which was frustrating and again killed the flow of it, because then you'd be moving, jump, and then you'd have to stop and wait for guys, and then you'd try to sneak past them out of impatience or whatever. You'd fail and you'd have to redo that part again. And for me, that came down to 5 or 6 times trying to redo a certain area, and it just didn't make it enjoyable. I mean, you know, like, if I wasn't doing this as a Let's Play, I honestly would have quit halfway through the game. I would have just rage quit and be done with it. And that's not how you should design a game, especially with only 12 goddamn levels in it. I mean, there were all the elements of a good game in here. They just spread them out. They should have put them together. There should have been a full-on level of trying to sneak around in a few places, but otherwise run, jump, kill if you want to take the hit, and then maybe there's a few gimmicks for planar. You know, using, I don't want to keep saying gimmick, but you know, using the terrain. Clearly, they had implemented some of that stuff, but then they waited to use it in well, I mean, Jesus, the cannon thing, they waited to the last level of the game in one spot to utilize something like that. Why? Why didn't they, I mean, if the idea was there, why didn't they implement that in other levels? I just don't understand that part. Again, the sub-weapon thing was unnecessary, which was unfortunate, and I feel like that could have been where it should have been utilized better to maybe trigger some shortcuts or some secrets or some things like that. You know, utilizing the level a bit more, not necessarily shooting cannons, but maybe throwing a knife. I mean, yes, there were a few platforms you could cut loose and then crush a guy or whatever, but I mean, it just didn't feel completely necessary to have all these little things in there. I mean, Christ, why was I collecting animus shards? There's no point in going out of the way to do that. There's no point in you know, doing all the secondary missions. I mean, if you're a completionist and you're really OCD about things and you want stuff like that, then fine. But I mean, you know, as much as I disliked Mark of the Ninja and the way it implemented the way it tried to get you to do stealth by rewarding you, basically you would have the most difficult time without it because the upgrades were necessary. Upgrades weren't necessarily necessary in this game. And perhaps it could have made it that way. I'm glad it didn't, I admit, but that means then that those upgrades are unnecessary at all in the game design. It could have been very simple. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, again, Mario, which I have used basically because it's not necessarily the father of 2D side-scrolling, because technically it is not the first by a long shot, but it is definitely one of the most memorable, and it made it very accessible and iconic, and Nintendo games thereafter copied everything that it did. Mario's a very well-designed game. It utilizes what? Jumping, the Fire Flower, and the Star. And all of those, by the way, were within the first level. The first level of Super Mario Brothers is brilliant because it teaches you everything you need to know without tutorials. I mean, you move, right? And unless you read the manual, which would have told you that holding down the B button makes you move fast, you move. By the time you get to that first block, there's a Goomba coming, so you jump to get on the Goomba, and you hit that block. Your head hits the block moves. The player learns, oh, I can hit blocks. So then you move a little bit further, there's more blocks. And there's shiny ones. You hit the shiny one, things come out. So that teaches you that those blocks are either coins or special items. Awesome. You learn that that mushroom gives you basically 2 lives, 2 hits for your life. You go on a little bit further in the level, there's another block. This one has a fire flower. You shoot the fire flower, and if you're moving, when you shoot the fire flower, you also start moving fast. You learn that the B button makes you move fast. And I believe there's also a star there too. If you're really, if you go through all the blocks, then eventually you unlock the star, which you learn makes you invincible and you can kill enemies and it moves you fast. So that if you don't learn the whole hold down the B button thing to move fast, it shows you moving fast as possible. All of that was in the first level of Mario. It is a brilliantly designed game, and that's why it's so iconic, and that's why Mario is now the figurehead of Nintendo. I mean, this game teaching you things that would have made the early game more enjoyable 2/3 of the way through is very poor, especially for a 12-level game. I mean, the jump kill, the slide kill, that should have just been there. There's no reason for it not to have been. I just, you know, I mean, to repeat myself one final time, all of the elements of a good game was here. They just spread it out, and that's very unnecessary. They should have just put it all into the first level or 2 and focused on interesting level design. Because, admittedly, a 2D game, 2D side-scrolling game, isn't very interesting anymore. Again, Mario, I mean... Anyone who grew up like I did in the Nintendo era has played Mario, so we've been playing it for, what, 20 years, 25 years now? So, to make it more interesting, you make the level design a little bit more interesting. And that was here. It just, they didn't implement it properly, I feel. And instead they made the game more frustrating in parts than it needed to be, which, again, kills the fun, and that is basically a cardinal sin of game design, making something that isn't fun. Yes, you're not meant to just breeze through it super easy. I mean, I never actually beat Mario as a kid. There were points in the game, level 8, world 8, that I just could never get by. You had to, at that point, be good at running through. You know, I'd always run out of time. You'd had to be able to run through, hit the jumps just right, and all that stuff to be able to make it. Some kids became masters at that. I never beat the game. But the difference is, between that game and this game, in Mario you keep moving. Yes, you have to start the whole goddamn level over every time you die, but you're still moving. What frustrated me the most about this game was when you stopped. There was movement, and then you stop and have to wait, and if you fuck it up, you have to go back to waiting again before you get another chance at it. That made that worse than it needed to be. I mean, and contrasting that from other points where, you know, you're going along and like you miss a jump, and then it brings you back to life, but it brings you back to life after the jump, so you don't even have to make the jump before. I mean, there's that disconnect there. There's no continuity in that. So why make me go all the way back to climbing a tower in that one level, because there was apparently no checkpoint in between there, and then when I just out of stupidity fall into a fire or jump off a pier that leads to nowhere, when that should have just been fenced off, because why even bother allowing me to jump over there? And then I'm right back where I started, no penalty. I don't understand the development that went into this game. The level design makes no sense. It's just bizarre. But it's over now. So, thanks for watching. I hope my frustration was not too frustrating for you to watch, but I'm not so sure that it wasn't, given the viewer numbers. But anyway, we made it through. So, I'm going to end this one here, and I will see you in the next Let's Play.